Hey guys, back with another Maple Story M video here. This time, just a quick, I had to do a little bit of update. It's been a while since I posted, but this one felt like I wanted to get something off my chest about the April update teaser release, right? Max damage cap, rebalance, Lady Blair, a lot's going on, a big patch. They've been doing this a lot recently with updates, kind of instead of spreading it out, they've been doing it all at once. I'm surprised there's no class coming out, Kane or Mihal or anything like that, but it seems like this came at the perfect time. Seems like there's going to be a quitting wave. If this patch wasn't that big, it felt like there's going to be a quitting wave coming if it hasn't already happened in your guys' server. But I just wanted to talk about it, my predictions, and why I think they did it right now. So in June, I talked about predicting that in this first quarter, there was going to be a increase to max damage cap. I thought it was coming through arcane gear with level 70s, with through Will, which is what Will, and then prepping for Vihilla, but they're throwing this at us. So my predictions for max damage cap is usually this tends to favor the whales, where they usually get the biggest bang for their buck because it's usually surrounded by exalting. So level 60 exalts will most likely get the most impact, while still level 50, level 40, level 50 will have a greater increase than level 40, and so on and so forth. So usually max damage cap, if I were to predict, like people at the highest level 110 max 110 mil max damage cap will probably be, I would say, if they do it how I predict, it's probably in the 125 130 mil cap. But the cool thing is that they actually have a lot of things in their bag that they could throw at us, right? I think KMSM has max damage cap in set bonuses, so they could do Necro set bonuses, Absolab Chaos set bonuses, getting max damage cap there. They could even throw in max damage cap from emblems, level 5 emblems, giving us that route through Legion, increasing those. They could also just increase it to weapons, to mag souls. There's a lot of different routes, so I'm very curious how deep in their bag they're planning on going and just throwing at us in this rebalance, and just kind of taking the top of it and just making it the cap just spike, because again, like I said, arcane gear is still coming, level 70 gear is still coming. So if they throw a lot at us now with all those max damage caps, then arcane gear is just going to be exponentially higher and greater, and that gap between people with level 70 arcane gear and anyone lower, even level 60 absols, is going to be huge. So I'm very curious of what route they take, but I think they're going to take a more, I want to say conservative, but I feel like 125 mil to 130 mil is kind of what the peak, what I would expect to be, and anything higher than that would just be absurd, because that means like people in the 40s, 50s, 60s mils are going to be jumping up 15, 20 bill, going from 40 mil to maybe 55 mil, 50 to like 70, 75. So it's going to be honestly insane if they just give us max damage cap altogether, right? They give us 1.52 mil, even 5 mil. Just the possibilities are endless. So I'm just as excited as you guys are about this. But max damage cap is always for the whales, but free cap is free cap. Right now, the rebalance is a whole nother thing altogether. That is going to be a lot of the times, well, not a lot of times, but when it's a full class, every class gets a rebalance. The meta doesn't tend to shift as much as you think, right? Because if everyone's getting something, more lines, more skill percent, the best classes are still going to be the best classes. So take that with a grain of salt. But if you're, but if somehow they end up doing it where um, they favor skill percentage over lines, um, that's going to go hand in hand with how much max damage cap they're going to give us and kind of expecting us to have, right? Because right now, um, if the cap doesn't spike too much, percent stats aren't really going to be that impactful. People are going to be complaining about it. They're going to want more lines. But like I said, if everyone gets more lines across the board, usually the meta stays the same in that sense. So the rebalance, what I'm sort of predicting, right, is they're going to condense burst windows even more, right? So like I always like to look at newer classes, especially Arrow is a great example where Arrow's burst window is actually like 3 to 4 seconds. They get 2,000 lines in 3 to 4 seconds, which compared to like even a paladin, which gets like 2400 lines, it's like a 6 second window, right? I've noticed like some classes are 8 second windows. So I'm curious if they end up um, making that even smaller, more burst and less time. That route, that's just more inherently more lines altogether, right? And instead of adding lines to it, they just take that route. Attack speed is another thing that I've heard, which is another thing that they could just do across the board or here and there to um, change the line counts without actually changing the line counts, right? Instead of giving you just straight like, oh, your main attacks get 3 more lines or 2 more lines, attack speeds and the frequency, um, how condensed the burst window is or the skill window is, it that's nice too. Allows you for more reaction time, allows you kind of less skill delays in general, and just allows for more fluidity. So I feel like that is kind of the route they're going to take if they do rebalance the lines. And then skill percentages. I still think skill percentages is something that they will bump, give a bump up, especially for those passive lines. I think a lot of those small passive lines, since they capped clone lines for a lot of classes, um, passive lines are anything under like 200% is really kind of suffering, especially as the cap starts to increase. So I'm curious if that's where they start to boost it. Main attacks going for like 200% to like 250 or things like that. I think that they're going to do a little bit of both lines and percent stats, which is amazing, right? Which is amazing. And I'm excited to see what they do with this. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. I really don't have much insight. I know KMSM had a few things. There's set bonuses. They're getting cap in a lot of different areas, but we've always been 1, 2, 3 steps behind, and we've never actually hit that KMSM level of cap. So I'm curious if they're going to start um, pushing us in that direction to catch up to them. And in that case, percent stats are going to have to catch up, and lines may not be as impactful, but party buffs, things like um, Bishop's Benediction, even like Battle Mages, bubbles, just party buffs, even certain stats are going to be huge, right? And then like think of like souls, where final damage may be better than cap, um, and even like final damage in other areas, forces you to push more bonus potentials as well. So I'm excited to see what route they take. There's just so many possibilities. I so many possibilities. I'm excited to see what they do, and I'm also not dismissing that they're gonna have one more thing up their sleeve here, right? They always like to tease things, and they always throw one more thing at us sometimes. And with these big patches, they could just throw something like a one-liner or two-liner here that doesn't seem huge, like a rebalance or a max damage cap, but it's gonna have a huge impact in the meta. So curious to see how that is. Curious about your guys' thoughts as well. I just had to do a quick little talk about this because this is exciting stuff. It's going to be the next topic of the next couple days before patch notes, and then when it goes live, it goes live. So getting your guys your practice modes ready for new bosses. Prep for that this week, and once next week bossing resets comes, be ready. Excited for the new gains, the new bosses that everyone's taking on, the new damage. So thanks again. I'll actually try to stream on Wednesday. I may be available, so stay tuned for that. Join the Discord if you guys want to get in discussion and things like that. So thank you guys again. Excited for this one. It's been a while since we had a good patch. I'm most excited about Lady Blair. So ready to get that arrow, more stats, more gear, those M pets. Everyone's gonna be hyped for this. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.